Welcome to the Rob Bro Show. I'm Rob Bro. I am the host. You are the co-host. You can co-host today by commenting on the Starting Line chat line. The Starting Line chat line brought to you by Starting Line Counseling. StartingLineCounseling.com. Free 15-minute consultation.
That's what I forgot to do the other day was tell Chase to send me a hat.
Yeah. Need to get you a hat. He was on, obviously, talking about his new office space.
Yeah.
Looks great. They're in Gunner, Texas.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. Lots to talk about today. Obviously, Texas Tech losing in the opening round of the NCAA tournament. Does that make you more or less excited about Coach McCaslin? I guess it can't make you more excited, but does it make you less excited? We'll talk about that today. We'll talk about the state of the roster a little bit. Obviously, you need a couple of weeks to breathe. But I did see Iowa State still in the tournament. Did you see what happened today?
I did not see what happened today.
6'11" Charlotte transfer commits to Iowa State while they're still playing.
Big for them.
So they're out working hard. Coach Otts doesn't sleep. I'm sure we'll see some commitments or at least visits to Texas Tech here in the near future. Obviously, we can talk about a couple of guys that are for sure leaving with eligibility running out, but otherwise, we will talk. We'll also talk about a little Texas Rangers baseball. They open up on Thursday night. You do get a night. Last year, I think it was like a 1:00 first pitch because nobody cares about the Texas Rangers. Oh, wait, now we do. Prime time, World Series defense, Chicago Cubs. Last year, I took in the opening day at the bar of Twin Peaks. I will be doing the same today. No free ads, but I will be doing the same this year because you can't start a season and win a World Series and then not do it again the next year. We also have the new eats coming out around the Texas Rangers. Evan Grant tweeting those out today. We'll discuss those. One of them looks terrible, but I would try it. I would try it. We've also got a new boomstick in the mix.
You've also got a new restaurant in the ballpark this year.
So we'll talk about all that.
Did you see that?
Well, we'll talk about it. We'll get there. I did not see that.
Okay.
I saw the new food at the concession.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. Is that the Whataburger?
Yeah, the Whataburger.
Okay. Yeah, I did see that. We'll talk about all of that and more. But we'll start with and we also have some NFL news. So that's the table set. Let's get into it. Grant McCaslin losing game 1 of the NCAA tournament. We talked about it last week. It was a mismatch, and I think I didn't give it enough credit. I knew they had DJ Burns, but I didn't give Jara credit. I certainly didn't give Middlebrooks credit or whatever his name is.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. That guy completely found a gear that he never had all year long.
I think he scored his season high in the first half.
Yeah, first half. Yeah.
So, yeah, I've already given my piece last night of the Gambling Gouges. I'll let you give your piece here, Carson. But I do want to ask, does this affect your perception of Grant McCaslin at all losing in round 1?
No. Look, I think what Grant McCaslin did this year, getting this team to an NCAA tournament, is a success in its own right. Now, look, once you get to the tournament, obviously you want to win, man. Like, everybody wants to win when you get to the NCAA tournament. There's not a team that makes the tournament that's like, we're just happy to be here. I mean, you want even Grambling State that was playing in the first round against a 1 seed, and they knew their backs were up against it. Like, they still wanted to win. They still went into the game trying to win. But, sometimes it comes down to you played one of your worst games of the season, and NC State is playing their best of basketball of the year right now. They figured it out. Middlebrooks, like we just talked about, had the game of his life the other night in Pittsburgh. So it's just one of those deals where it doesn't get me. I'm not upset about the loss because you just got beat. I think NC State was a better team than you the other night. You shot it really poorly. There's not a whole lot you can do whenever you shoot it poorly. It's not like you were taking terrible shots. You just weren't getting anything to fall. At the end of the game, there were terrible shots. Yeah.
Bad shot.
But early, you were getting pretty good looks.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Chance McMillan got a couple looks in the corner where you're like, that's getting knocked down. And no,
Yep.
It didn't. It just goes off the back iron, and you get an offensive rebound, then you can't get a putback. I thought that their big men just kind of out muscled and out bigged, Texas Tech's Warren Washington in his first game back. I knew that wasn't going to be a good setup for Texas Tech because Warren Washington hadn't played in a while.
I thought offensively it would be better, but defensively, I didn't give DJ Burns credit enough for how quick his feet were.
For the athleticism, yeah.
His spin move was leaving Warren Washington in the dust. Now, Warren Washington obviously still hobbled.
Yeah,
I think
still slow.
A month ago, 2 months ago, a month from now, the game is quite a bit different. But in that space on that night, it was just not a good night for Texas Tech. And a lot of people complaining you didn't have halftime adjustments. Halftime adjustments are the biggest myth in sports, in my opinion. I think there are obviously things you can do at halftime to change, but just because you don't execute in the second half doesn't mean you didn't adjust. It just means you still didn't execute. And I will say this, doubling Burns would have just opened up Middlebrooks or Jara. I mean, you can't just send 3 guys to 1 guy in basketball and then have everyone else open, especially when everyone else is just destroying you in the paint too. And what are you going to do? Bring down Pop Isaacs to help on Burns, and then you get the other Burns or the other DJ Horn open for 3. I mean, it was a bad situation. You lost the game. We move on. Warren Washington done with his eligibility. Joe Toussaint done with his eligibility. I think everyone else potentially could return, even the seniors. I think Kerwin Walton could find some way to return. Chance McMillan, I believe, has said he wants to return. Waiting on Terrion Williams, I think, to make a statement. I don't know that you need to. Pop Isaacs intimated that he would return. The rest of the roster, I'm really unsure about. What guys do you for sure want back in a rotational piece or starting role next season from this roster?
Obviously, you'd love to have. I mean, at the top of my list is Darian Williams. With the season he had, he's number 1 that you want to come back. I think Chance McMillan would probably be number 2 on my list, just because I think he had a fantastic season. He relished his role from being the 6th man off the bench. That's a tough role to take on, especially when you want to be in the starting lineup. That's a tough role, man. And to come out and play the way he did for most of the year in that role, it can't be understated how good of a year he had. As the 6th man, he very easily, and what I thought, instead of Jackson Robinson at BYU, I thought Chance McMillan should have been the 6th man of the year in the Big 12. That's how good he was. And it's not a homer pick. It's just, I watched Jackson Robinson play here in Lubbock. I watched him play in a couple other games. Chance McMillan had a bigger impact off the bench for Texas Tech at more times when they needed it than Jackson Robinson did for BYU. So those 2 guys, obviously at the top. I'd love to see, do you want Pop Isaacs back? Like, what does Pop Isaacs give you to come back? That's a tough one for me. If you get the good Pop, I'm perfectly like, let's go. If you get the Pop that we saw late in the season where it was kind of a struggle, then maybe it's time for him to go look for somewhere new and get out of the situation that he put himself into earlier this year. Not that he did anything illegal, but it's one of those years where it's one of those things where, like, maybe you just need a fresh start somewhere. Maybe you just go and play. And I don't know what the situation is going to be with his dad in a year. I don't know any of that. Maybe he goes closer to home. I don't know. Plays at UNLV or somewhere. But as long as it's not at Arizona or Arizona State, that's cool.
Or anywhere in the Big 12, yeah.
Or anywhere else in the Big 12, yeah. And look, I think Pop is a good piece to have on your team. I think in his dad posted on Twitter the day after, he's been playing with a strained labrum in his hip. Like, that's a big injury. No wonder he's been off shooting. He's putting a lot of pressure on one leg and not the other. And And maybe that's what threw him off late. That's a big deal. If true, and I don't know why his dad would just put that out there and it not be true. And we saw him on the bench a couple times late in games where he's struggling to get back out there and he's hurting a little bit. So maybe that is the case, and that was the case. And in that case, and cool, I'd love to see Pop back. Trying to think, there's just not
Robert Jennings and Yahalo on the back end.
I'd love to see Emily Yahalo back. I think that he grew a little bit late in the year. We saw some good things from him. He's going to have to get bigger, stronger, faster, all the things. Maybe he can work with Warren Washington over the summer while Warren's trying to get ready for professional basketball and get healthy again. And he can work with Yalaho and get, him to feel what the game is supposed to look like. But yeah, I mean, you get injured early in the year too. Robert Jennings is a guy who I think it's tough for Robert Jennings because I felt like he should have been better this year. I felt like he could have made strides this year in the game the other night.
I think he really improved down the stretch.
I agree. The game the other night, he just got out muscled and out bigged though.
Yeah, but he's giving up 50 pounds on the guy.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of DJ Burns out there.
No, that's true. There's not a lot of DJ Burns
out
there at all.
I also think it would help Robert Jennings to get some minutes with another big. I think if you could put him in there at the 4, I don't think he's a true center trying to go against the other guy's best big. If you had Warren Washington and Robert Jennings in there at the same time, and you could help on Burns, I think that would have been different, but you just couldn't play those two guys at the same time because you didn't have enough to go around.
Yeah. And it'll be
offensively, you can't have both those guys out there because I don't think they stretch the floor enough.
Right.
But if you could open up a shot and get Robert Jennings in a little bit of a different situation, and maybe even with Darian Williams at the 3, I could see Robert Jennings providing a lot of help in the Big 12 season, but I don't think he's going to be a starter. So he would have to kind of accept a 6th or 7th man role like he did this year. And obviously he started down the stretch, but because of injury, I don't think you come back and have a starting role for Robert Jennings. But I also wouldn't push him out the door. I think he could be a quality Big 12 basketball player.
Yeah. And also if you get Devin Cambridge to get another year and be back, we'll see how that works. Surely
on in the year that he would come back.
Yeah, and that's I think he has to get a medical red shirt cleared by the NCAA to get another year of eligibility because he was a senior. But also he was, for COVID reasons and all that, he might still have that extra year left. So, but you get him back. Just think about that lineup with Devin Cambridge and the Darian Williams you got this year, and then Robert Jennings as the big man. And obviously, I think you're going to go out and probably get another big man, probably in the transfer portal, a 7-footer. Yeah. You'll try and get that. It would be really cool if
got 2 of them.
What's his name? Ryan Kalkbrenner would transfer to Texas Tech. That'd be great from Creighton.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. He won't. He'll go in the NBA draft. No. But yeah, it's just one of those deals where you need a big guy, a 7-footer, 6'10", 6'11", somewhere like that, to compete at the big level in the Big 12. Because Warren Washington was the major reason that you had so much success early in the Big 12 conference. And then you kind of, sputtered at the end and had good moments at the end, but also struggled against teams that had good bigs at the end. So I think that'll be a big thing for Texas Tech to get Devin Cambridge back and healthy. And if he can have the year that we thought he was going to have this year, and he would have added so much to this team this year. You would have loved to have Devin Cambridge, but with Devin Cambridge, I don't know that Darian Williams would have had the year that he did or get the opportunities that he did either. So it made it to where Darian Williams could stand out, and now you have both of those guys coming back next year, hopefully, and they can both be big parts of what you want to do.
I would say Kerwin Walton certainly wouldn't have had the same year, but Darian was starting. It was Darian, Cambridge, and Warren at the 3, 4, 5 early in the year. So I think Darian Williams still plays all of his minutes. Maybe defensively, he's better or worse guarding the perimeter. I don't know. You might just see him play the 4 next year too, and just go out and get a couple of bigs to rotate and you kind of rotate Robert Jennings in there as well. I don't know if he's back or not, but we'll see. All right, the rest of the Big 12 basketball world, Houston and Iowa State, the last two teams standing. Baylor losing in the round of 32, which I predicted. I did not predict much of anything else.
I didn't predict that.
I certainly had TCU maybe winning one game, but I didn't think they would go further. They lost in the opening round. Texas losing to Tennessee in the round of 32. I think we all probably saw that coming, even though Rick Barnes tried his best to not do that. I'm going to go back to a couple of Alan Corbin comments here. Alan says, I'm content with how the season ended. Record 23-11, a tournament appearance, good first step. I do agree, and I think content is a good word. Certainly not happy with a first round exit, but lots of good teams lose in the first round. And I think when you look at what Alan just said and say it's a good first step, that means you have a better second step. So if you look back in year 3 and say, yeah, you missed the round of 32, the Sweet 16 in year 1, but then you went there in year 2 and 3, you improved, then yeah, that's absolutely correct. It's a good first step. Otherwise, you look back in year 3 and you have a missed tournament and you get bounced in the first round again, then you're like, okay, well, now we're not as content. But I think year 1, I think it is a good first step if it follows with a strong second step. Pop gets better with another season under GMAC. Allen says he made some great improvements from freshman to sophomore year. I think he certainly improved in some ways. I think he regressed in some ways.
Yeah.
I think Pop Isaacs would benefit greatly from a stronger point guard. I think at times Joe Toussaint was a really good fit, but at other times Joe Toussaint didn't seem as confident in his game, and I think the mix got thrown off. Maybe it was with Warren Washington. You lose that pick and roll game, and that hurt the guards just as much as it hurt Robert Jennings having to play more. I think your offense really sputtered when you didn't have that good pick and roll game. But if you could get a drive and dish point guard, if you could get a Keenan Evans, I think obviously if you get a great player, your team is better. But I think if you can get a great point guard, a true point guard that can drive and score at the rim, shoot a little bit, but also facilitate, I think Pop Isaacs is a much better two guard in that respect. And then you run some ISO with him and get him his driving too. So I think Pop Isaacs obviously has proven he can play at a Big 12 level, but I think you need the proper players around him to have him in his best availability. And then he says Robert Jennings developing a 10-foot jumper, he could absolutely play the floor. Yeah, nice. If you could have a mid-range, I think that opens up the floor a lot, especially if you have another big. And I think that's step one. Obviously, looking into the portal season, bigs, guards, and stretch wings are what run the Big 12. And if you could go back maybe to the everyone 6'6" positionless basketball that got you to the Sweet 16 with Mark Adams, or even some of those teams under Chris Beard that went a long ways where your two guard is 6'7" Jarrett Culver, who played a lot of point guard too. Maybe you go back to that, but with Pop Isaacs and Joe Toussaint this year, that's not really how you looked. Defensively, I don't think it hurt too much. But then you look at teams that do well in the Big 12 every single year. Iowa State lately, long athletic. TCU lately, long athletic, top to bottom. Kansas obviously recruits that way. Baylor has recruited that way and won national championship off of it. Houston, obviously long and athletic. So you look around and say, maybe that's what you want to get back to, but I don't know. I want to see Grant McCaslin's recruiting in year 2. Obviously, he was late to the party last year. See if he can get a better roster together this year, a deeper roster together this year with more time.
Yeah. I think you give him a couple more, months to recruit here now and be getting the transfer portal with a full staff. He didn't even have a full staff whenever he was getting all this stuff put together at that point either.
Yeah, he finished the staff after the roster.
After you got the roster full. Yeah, exactly. So, I think that there's
just
plenty
him,
of time and
him and
opportunity.
Buff, right?
Yeah, just him and Kellen.
Oh, no. It was just him and the guy from North Texas.
From North, yeah, his assistant in North Texas. I think Buffington came before we finished the roster, though.
Yeah.
And then he was able to get Darian Williams, maybe Warren Washington, one of the two. I think Warren was early, though. One of Grant Mack's first. Joe Toussaint was for sure.
No, Joe Toussaint was late because he was at West Virginia.
Joe Toussaint was late. That's right. Yeah.
So he was at West Virginia with Huggy, and then Huggy had his mishap, and that's when he left.
That's a fact. Yeah.
All right. That's basketball. Do you have any other final kind of soliloquies you want to?
No, just that this year, I don't think anybody should be unhappy with the way that the year was and ended for Texas Tech. Look, NC State is in the Sweet 16. They're playing very good basketball right now. They figured out what's worked for them. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, they're the only seeded team above the favorites that has made it to the. I mean, if there was a Cinderella in the tournament, NC State is it. There just weren't a whole lot of upsets this year, and NC State's really not a Cinderella. They're a Power 5 team.
Well, they beat the 14 seed in round 2.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, and so they beat the Cinderella.
Yeah.
And so and I don't look at NC State as a glass slippered team. I think they're a Power 5 team that struggled a little bit early in ACC play. They figured it out a little bit late. With what they needed in their rotation. DJ Burns obviously figured out some things on his side as well and became he's one of the better big men in the tournament. And if Middlebrooks continues to play the way he played the other night, I think NC State's got an opportunity to do some things in this year's tournament. It'll be tough for them in the side with Houston and all of that. We'll see how that goes. But it's like I said, after Oakland beat Kentucky, whoever won the Texas Tech NC State game was probably going to have a pretty easy trip into the Sweet 16. Like Oakland, I don't know that Oakland was good enough. Gilkey wasn't good enough to shoot it as well. Knock down 10 threes 2 nights out of, in 2 times in 3 nights.
Right. After Gilkey did that, he also was shooting NIL deals and going on every talk show.
Yeah. He's not getting enough reps in the gym like he normally does. He's no longer a nobody. He is a somebody now. But everybody will always remember what he did against Kentucky. And he might have been the guy that got Calipari fired. But anyways, going back to Texas Tech. Not yet, they haven't. Going back to Texas Tech, I just think that it was a great season. You didn't have these expectations going into Big 12 play. You're like, man, I just hope this team doesn't get boat raced in Big 12 play. Right? Like, because you were still searching for things going into Austin. We didn't know what you were going to get in Austin. And Texas looked pretty good at the time. They were ranked number 12 in the country. You went to Austin and you beat them, and you looked pretty good. And then you rattle off all those Big 12 wins in a row to start the season, to start the Big 12 slate. And you're like, man, this team could really do something. And you end up getting a 2-round bye in the Big 12 tournament. That's huge. It's the 4 seed. Just a great year, I think, in the first year of Grant McCasland, especially with where it was when Mark Adams left. Like, there wasn't a whole lot left to go off of when Mark Adams.
I want to push back on this a little bit because I've seen this a lot. That
you had Pop, you had.
No, I want to get past that. I want to get past who's on, because in college basketball you can recreate a roster, and I know he came in late, but people talking like this program was in the gutter after Mark Adams left, and it was culture-wise. I understand that.
Culture-wise is where it was. Yeah, exactly.
But you still have the Matador Club. You still have the Womble. You still have the USA. You still have the fan base. Like this, it's not unfathomable that Grant McCasland had this run in year 1. I
agree. I agree.
And maybe I'm being a little harsh here saying that I'm not giving him a free pass in year 1 because of what Mark Adams left. Talent-wise, you certainly needed a re-up, especially after, how it ended. But I did see a lot of empty cupboard stuff, and that always killed me with Cliff too. Like Cliff left an empty cupboard, on the defensive side. Huberville left an empty cupboard. Every coach that ever leaves an empty cupboard. Matt Wells left an empty cupboard, which is the truest among all of them. But it just, in college basketball today, you can revamp a roster in a month. You just have to have the facilities, and Texas
Well,
Tech.
and there's a little luck involved in that too. Like you can go out and get great transfers. UCLA did that last year. Mick Cronin did that to resupply his roster. He went out and got a ton of transfers, and none of those transfers learned to play together. And UCLA did not even make the tournament. Like they were bad this year. They were not good, and that led to Mick Cronin probably looking for another job. Not that he's getting fired at UCLA, but that he wants out because he even called his own team out and said they're too soft. I can't I don't like what we have in the locker room anymore. Like I could care less how long this couldn't care less how much success this team has. Basically, is what he said. It's kind of like the Bill Self comments after the game when they get beat. Of course, just Bill Self being Bill Self and saying, about 2 months ago, I was looking forward to next year. I didn't really care about this year. Like that's typical Bill Self. But I think that what Texas Tech did, what Grant McCasland did, and maybe you're right. It's not so much for me. It wasn't so much the guys that you didn't have left over. It was what Mark Adams had done to your basketball program and the culture. That word gets thrown around a lot. The culture around the program, what the locker room was like with Mark Adams in it, all the things that we read and went through last year, and Mark Adams's last year, and the things that he did off the court that kind of shined a bad light on the basketball team as well, even though that's just a personal thing for Mark Adams. I just think what Grant McCasland did in this first year of creating that togetherness, the family, and he got the right people. We say this all the time, and you hear coaches say it a lot, is we want the right people sitting on the right seats in the bus. Like that's what we want to do. At the end of the year, we want the right people to be on the bus. And I think at the end of the year, you got the right people that you needed on the bus, and you got the people that didn't need to be on the bus and the kind of quote unquote cancers of the team out and gone and dealt with. So good for him. Good for this coaching staff. I think he put together a fantastic coaching staff. Now I just hope that it's one of those deals where Texas Tech had so much success with Chris Beard that his coaching staff started getting poached a little bit and chicken pecked and all this stuff from other places. I hope that doesn't happen with Grant McCasland's staff. I think that Kellen Buffington will probably have many job offers, especially with the way that he helped Grant McCasland recruit and do all these things, and what Kellen Buffington is to the sport of basketball, especially with the AAU circuit and knowing all the people. He's a great commodity to have on your staff. I think Dave Smart is one of the better hires that anybody made over the offseason as an assistant coach, pulling him from Canada, the winningest coach in Canadian basketball history. And that's not anything to shake a head at. It's like, it's just Canada. No, he's coached some pretty daggum good teams. I mean, Kentucky and Kansas went up there a few years ago and got drubbed by Dave Smart's teams in Canada. So, I think that what Grant McCasland did in year one is great. Now you got to continue and build upon what you did in year one, in year two. Take the success that you had and kind of just build on top of that, which is kind of what Chris Beard did in his first couple of years. You saw it, you get to this Elite Eight, and then you go to a Final Four, you do all these things. Obviously, if he would have stayed, I think you continue to do and be great. Mark Adams, it felt like, was the right hire at the time, and then he just kind of went off the rails personally, and that's what kind of derailed the basketball program as well. So, I think Grant McCasland's the right guy for the job in a long-winded way.
Derailed his career. Yeah,
derailed his career for sure.
I don't think it derailed the basketball program.
It made everything
the tournament 1 year later. You're back in the tournament 1 year after.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Derailed the basketball.
But I think it has a lot to do with what the coaching staff did this year, nothing to do with what you were left with.
Right. But you were able to put that coaching staff together in the wake of Mark Adams because the program was still healthy and strong.
That's fair. Yeah, and you have all the facilities to do it. Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that what Mark Adams did was set you back a year or two, maybe.
Wait, he didn't burn down the Womble.
No. You still have the same facilities. You still have the same ability to recruit. You're still in the best basketball conference in the country. You'll remain in the best basketball conference in the country, even with Texas and Oklahoma leaving, because Arizona, a team that's in the Sweet 16, is coming into your conference.
Which is wild.
which is wild. And Arizona ain't going anywhere quick. They're always going to be one of the blue bloods of college basketball.
Yeah, here's a good
Going
question.
back to
Who had the better year one, Grant or Joey?
I would say Grant.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Joey had
Joey.
a winning Big 12 record for the first time in crap, I don't know how long in the Big 12. But Grant, I think, but for Joey, I think you had some expectations of how good you could be. With Grant, it was kind of like
in year one.
Yeah, in year one.
Year one. I mean, certainly in year two. Certainly in year two.
Certainly year two. Yeah, that's
underwhelmed.
Fair. I mean, is 7 and what were you in year one? 8 and 4.
You were 7 and 5.
7 and 5.
And then you won your bowl game.
8 and 5. Yeah. Is that better than what Texas Tech did in basketball this year in Grant McCasland's first year? No.
Grant McCasland was the third coach in a row to go to the tournament. Second coach in a row to go in his first season. Going back to Chris Beard, going back to Tubby Smith.
Because even Chris Beard didn't go to the tournament his first year.
Right, and he's the fourth coach in a row to go to a tournament. Joey McGuire is the first coach since Mike Leach to have a winning record in Big 12 play. The first coach since Mike Leach to, have a winning record, win a bowl game, all that stuff. Since Cliff
had a winning record his first year,
2013. Yeah, 7-0. He was 3-1 in November, which he hadn't done in forever.
Ever.
I would argue, and then Joey. Now, we haven't had this yet with Grant McCasland. We'll see how he does in recruiting and getting the transfer portal in. But he also, prior to year one, got the recruiting class from 78 to 38. Yeah. And then in year two was a top 25 recruiting class.
Best recruiting class you've seen in a while.
His first recruiting class.
Right.
So I think year one of Joey is more impressive to me, coming on the heels of what the football program was over the last decade, than Grant McCasland coming on the heels of what the basketball program was the last decade.
Well, and to argue that point, what Grant McCasland did,
both impressive.
Right. What Grant McCasland did, he played in the NIT with North Texas.
Right.
He comes in late March, early April, and takes the job officially.
Sure.
He doesn't have anybody on staff. He's not sure who's staying. I mean, guys are hopping in the transfer portal. He's trying to put together a staff. He's trying to put together, a roster as well. And for Joey, he came in October or November early, and he was able to go out and do some things without having to worry about. Obviously, he's trying to put a staff together as well. But he had his offensive coordinator at the time, Sonny Cumbie, who was the interim head coach at the time. He knew Sonny was going to be his offensive coordinator. They were going out and recruiting, and Joey McGuire just had to focus on that. Grant McCasland came in, and he was having to get his staff together, go out, recruit. Now, look, I think recruiting in college basketball is a little bit easier because you only got to fill a certain amount of spots versus college football where you need, 25 new dudes. You only need like 4 or 5, maybe 6 new recruits in basketball, which is a little bit easier. But I think what Grant McCasland did here in year one was, and look at it this way: you've had injuries to 3 of your best players in football. Your quarterbacks were injured all year in Joey's first year. Obviously, that was tough. But Grant's first year here at Texas Tech, Warren Washington goes down for most of the year. One of your, if not your better player that you thought was going to be the best player on this team, Devin Cambridge, goes down for the whole year. That's tough. And then you lose Darian Williams down the stretch in big moments. That's tough too. You figured out a way to get to the NCAA tournament.
Quarterbacks in year one of Joey McGuire's.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And so I think they're both very comparable. But I think Grant McCasland had more success in what he did in year one versus what Joey did in year one.
I mean, Grant didn't win in the postseason, and Joey did against Ole Miss, a really good team.
Was Ole Miss a really good team, though?
They were until the last 4 weeks of the year.
That wasn't Ole Miss. That was Mississippi State.
No, that was Sonny. Joe McGuire.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Was Ole Miss.
That's right. You're right.
And you beat Cal in year 2.
You're right.
I
think they're both very comparable. I think you can go either way.
I think they are. I think it's very close, but I would give the edge to Joey. I think Grant did a great job.
Yeah, I'd give mine to Grant.
Zach says Joey didn't have to overcome multiple extreme controversies within the program in his first year. Wells gave him a drama-free roster.
I mean, Jet Duffy was gone.
Yeah, I don't know about drama-free. I know that Grant had to deal with Pop Isaac this year, and
the Kyron Lindsay stuff off the floor. It wasn't so much of what anybody knows about. He didn't do anything like, that's gonna be in the news. Yeah, but
he kept those guys on the roster. That's him recruiting. He could have had a blank slate if he wanted to. He did get rid of several guys off the roster because he didn't want them on the roster.
Yeah.
I don't know. I pushed back on that earlier. I'll push back on it again. I think when Mark Adams left, Mark Adams was gone. And I don't think he's as big a stain on the program as people give him credit for. I don't know that Grant McCasland had to overcome a lot once he was in, because a lot of that, especially with a few players that left, a lot of that drama was gone. Now, did Grant McCasland rebuild the culture and everything else? Yes, I think he did a great job, but that's just 1 year removed, and I don't know. I think that's a little overplayed, in my personal opinion. And with the Pop Isaac stuff, obviously you had to delicately
navigate
through that. But did Pop Isaacs miss a game?
Nope.
So I'm sure that was tough to deal with behind the scenes, but he didn't miss a game. So I don't know. That just seems a little, I don't know. I would go with Joey, but I think Grant is, right there behind him as doing a great job in year 1. I also think they're both set up for success. You didn't recruit any high school kids in year 1 for Grant McCasland. There's 0 in the class, but I think I contribute that to getting in late. You have offered high school kids in year 2, but I think if you look at Baylor, if you're not getting an NBA level high school prospect, they don't take them. They go get transfers, and then basically you have the NBA guys that come in for a year or 2 maybe in the last couple of seasons. Now, they have some guys that are 4-year guys, but a lot of times they don't pan out at Baylor, and it is what it is. But you have the Sohans and the couple of guys they had this year that have an opportunity at the NBA level, and that's what you want to do. You want to go get the 4 and 5 stars, supplement with transfers.
Yeah, Langston Love.
And have a guy or 2 that are there for the long haul. So,
yeah. And that's where college basketball recruiting is now, though. It just,
there's not a lot of those guys to go around, so you have to be at the
right
level at it.
And the guys that are good, that are probably one and dones, now are going into the NBA developmental league and playing that 1 year there and then going into the draft, or they can go play professionally overseas for a year and then get into the draft. So you're looking at a lot of, it's kind of like a chessboard where you're just exchanging, moves for move in the transfer portal is what it looks like now, more so than recruiting high school kids. So what's happening is these high school kids that aren't your 4 and 5 stars, they're going to places like Charlotte. They're going to places like SMU or Tulsa or somewhere like that. They have a good year at Tulsa or Nevada in Darian Williams' case. He's the player, the Mountain West Freshman of the Year last year. And he decides, you know what? I think I'm better than the Mountain West. I'm going to go play somewhere else. And he chooses Texas Tech, who's one of the better teams in the Big 12 the last few years. Maybe not last year, but this year, the years prior to that, they were. And he's a star. And so I think that's where college basketball recruiting is now. They're letting the mid-majors kind of do the development stuff. And then you're getting the guys who have panned out in those mid-major conferences and look great. I mean, look at a guy like an Adonis Arms, for instance, who goes and he doesn't really even play his first 3 or 4 years at Winthrop.
He was
2 schools before that. Yeah, and then he becomes one of the better players on a team that goes to the Sweet 16 for you.
Yeah.
In Mark Adams' first year. So I think that and Matt Mooney's the same way when he comes and he's a big piece of what you do at Texas Tech basketball and getting to a national title game and all those things. So
Also his third.
Yeah, and and then you have a guy like a Jarrett Culver on the same team, or Davide Moretti on the same team, who were at Texas Tech for their whole career. So it's one of those deals.
2 years.
Yeah,
NBA. That's the NBA high school player with Jarrett
exactly.
Culver. That's the
And
rest.
so, but those are the, and then
Taylor
you have
I just mentioned. Yeah.
the Tyreek Owens. So there's always going to be one of those guys, maybe two on a team, especially at the Power 5 level. But you're never going to have these huge high school recruiting classes and the one and dones like what Duke and Kentucky and all those guys used to have. They used to have a starting 5 that were all true freshmen, and they're all one and dones. Like that's what college basketball used to be. It's not that anymore.
And that's what Mark Adams tried to do last year with 5 freshmen coming in.
Yeah,
that were not one and dones.
Not
and
ready.
that was reflected in the product.
Yep.
All right. The rest of the Big 12 basketball world, we mentioned the NCAA success and non-success, 2 Sweet 16 teams. Don't really want to talk about my bracket, but you have Iowa State and Houston there. Both of us,
the 2 best teams in your league.
Both of us have them in the Final Four of the national championship game, I even believe.
Yep.
Coaching wise, West Virginia hiring DeVries.
Yeah, DeVries. I don't know how you say
whatever his name is. Solid coach. Good hire.
We'll see how it works out at West Virginia for sure.
Oklahoma State was looking at him. Then they were looking at Utah State's Danny Sprinkle. He went to Washington. Then they were looking at I was trying to just remember this off the top of my head. The other guy, and then he went to Vanderbilt, allegedly.
I don't know why you go to Vanderbilt.
Louisville still has not hired a coach.
Still have not hired a coach, no.
They're off of Mick Cronin. Mick Cronin has a $20 million buyout that they're not fond of.
I don't blame them.
I looked at the Cardinal Authority earlier today, which is the Louisville 24/7 board.
Yep.
I got some names for you. This is where Louisville is. This is where the state of Louisville is. Okay, you ready? The state of the basketball program. This isn't 1 year removed from one bad head coach. This is 6 years removed from Pitino, right? Or something crazy. It's been a long time. Shaheen Holloway, Seton Hall head coach.
Yeah.
You remember him from his St. Peter's run with Doug back in
he's only been at
2.
Yeah, he's only been at Seton Hall for 2 years. 1 year.
1 year.
2 years. Yeah.
1 year.
1 year. Yeah, this is his first year. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, this was his first year.
The Pirates weren't bad this year.
Pat Kelsey, the College of Charleston.
Pretty good head coach. Had a lot of success.
Eric Musselman.
He's kind of lost a little bit of the muster. Which is funny because I wanted him to come to Texas Tech last year.
And then the Indiana State head coach.
All of those guys are good options, I think. I think that Musselman's a guy who was proven at Nevada. Now, he recruited really well with the Twins, and he had a great team that year with the Wolfpack. And then he gets to Arkansas.
He flashed.
Yeah, he flashed at Arkansas the first couple of years. He beats you in the Sweet 16, goes to the Elite 8 that year. Mark Adams' his first year. And then the last couple of years, they just have.
It was Chris Beard's last year.
Was it Chris Beard's last year? That's right. Yeah, it was Chris Beard's last
year.
He
lost to Duke and Mark Adams first.
That's right. Yeah, just it's one of those things where is Musselman. Did he just have one of those years? And listen, you're going to have some of those years in the big conferences where you go and get the transfer portal guys and they don't pan out. Like that's going to happen. That's just how college basketball is going to work right now.
Well, speaking of,
I think Musselman's the better hire for Louisville.
What did we call it earlier? Overcome multiple extreme controversies within the program.
Yeah.
If you've been following Arkansas's season. I think they've had some extreme controversies
Controversies.
in the locker room. I don't know what exactly is going on. A lot of that was message board rumor, but apparently Muss has been trying to get out for a month or two.
Yeah.
Calling his agents, calling every job that's open. But it just seems to me that 10 days in, right, to this Louisville coaching search, and that's the group you're on, doesn't bode well for Louisville as a program. Now, I'm not saying these guys aren't good coaches, but if that's your hot list in the first 3 days and you make a quick hire and you pounce on one of those guys because that's who you want, then all right. But now 10 days in, how many guys have said no to Louisville? That's my question.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Mick Cronin has. Well, I think it's
Well, they
more of
get more
a
because the
Louisville said, "Nah, we ain't paying 20 mil," because they probably don't have it right now.
Dusty May said no.
Yeah.
Who Dusty May is at Michigan now.
Yep. I think it's one of those deals where Musselman wants out at Arkansas. Louisville needs a guy that has been a little bit proven that can coach. That's kind of a culture guy. He's that in your face, like change the culture kind of guy. I think Musselman's that kind of head coach. I think that's what you need, and that's really why I said that Texas Tech could use a guy like that. Grant McCaslin is a little bit fiery, but not the same as Musselman is. I think Musselman would be a perfect fit at Louisville, to be honest with you. He wants out at Arkansas. It's not a good fit anymore. A new regime. I mean, listen, it's not like Louisville's been winning, so he's got a lot of work to do, but also there's not a whole lot of expectation on you in the first couple of years. Like, people are going to want you to win. They're going to want you to be, physically sound and all those things. Louisville's just been getting drubbed this past season. They were so bad. And I think he totally has to recreate the roster. Whoever goes in there is going to have to recreate the whole roster. And I just don't know that the other coaches you named in that search are the same as Eric Musselman. Musselman's been around. He's done it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Josh Schertz, the guy at Indiana State, he's been good, but they're not even in the tournament this year. They couldn't find a way to win their own conference tournament. So what says that he can go to Louisville and win in the ACC that's, got North Carolina and Duke and North Carolina State and all these other schools, Florida State and all these other schools in it, that Syracuse is in the ACC still too, for those that don't remember. So yeah, I think that Musselman is probably the better of the four in that regard. And of course, Josh Schertz too has been the number one candidate for the St. Louis Billikens job too. So we'll see what works out for Louisville. It'd be crazy to see if Louisville's offered the Schertz guy at Indiana State and he's taking the St. Louis job over the Louisville job. That tells you where the state of Louisville basketball is.
Also, back to the Oklahoma State job. This from the Tulsa World. I was enjoying all of this earlier this morning, reading through the Oklahoma State debacle. This headline is, as West Virginia hires the Drake coach, Oklahoma State search reportedly a mess, in quotes. So they're swirling. And then, Sprinkle going to Washington. So that's back to back. Even after this is written, that there are two top targets now going on. Now, this particular Tulsa World article, and I don't know the author or his authenticity here, but they say Texas A&M head coach Buzz Williams is rumored to have a connection to the OSU search. We'll see if that happens. That would be a bit of a coup. I don't know that Buzz Williams is a great head coach, but to steal an A&M head coach would be a pretty good coup for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, there's no chance
right now. But there's another name that I've seen in two places now. One, Steve Lutz from Western Kentucky, just lost to Marquette. He also took A&M Corpus Christi to the NCAA tournament a couple times. But two places I've seen the name Ben McCullum. Do you remember Ben McCullum? Ben McCullum is the D2 coach that last year, he's at Northwest Missouri State.
They've had a great team the last few years.
There was a thought that Texas Tech was going to hire Ben McCullum before Grant McCasland. And then once McCasland was hired, there was a thought for a month that Ben McCullum was going to come be the Dave Parks, the offensive assistant. Basically you're hiring two head coaches at once. So Ben McCullum, very near and dear to, I'm sure, a lot of Texas Tech fans' hearts, at least in that search last year. Now, allegedly in the mix for Oklahoma State's head coaching job. Now you've seen Mike Gundy go to the D2, the D3 levels to go get his offensive and defensive coordinators in the last several years. Maybe they go back there for a head basketball coach. Now, Ben McCullum, wildly successful.
Wildly
successful. He would not be the first lower level guy to jump up to a higher level guy on the back of just being a winner. You see the Alabama new head coach in football doing that over the last several years. He won where he was, then he gets up to Washington, DeBoer. Now he's at Alabama. You could certainly see that with not CJ McCollum, Ben McCullum at the Oklahoma State job. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what Oklahoma State's going to do. But everyone they've talked to, they're like good luck Chuck. Everyone they discuss as a potential
finds a new job.
Finds his new wife right after that. So
yeah,
there it is. All right, I want to talk about the Texas Rangers a little bit, but not how you might think. They released the new food items. We did this every year on the Rob Bro Show on terrestrial radio, so we'll do it again here on the internet. Golden Chick has added a chicken waffle taco.
Ooh.
By the way, thanks to Evan Grant, who is out there trying all these things. Shout out to Evan.
I wish I had Evan Grant's job.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic going around.
Pretty nice.
Watching baseball, writing a little bit.
And he does a really good job at it.
Going to every game. Golden Chick has added the chicken waffle tacos. Obviously, that's in the outfield there at the Golden Chick. You mentioned earlier they have added the Whataburger legitimately.
Yep.
The Whataburger is there at the stadium now. I'm sure it's going to be in the outfield too. The Boomstick Triple Play. All right, so you had the traditional boomstick back from the Nelson Cruz days. Was the the yard-long 36-inch chili dog.
It's
this
massive.
Is a foot-long chili dog, a plate of nachos filled with chili cheese and grilled onions, and 2 cheeseburgers on an 8-inch bun. So it's in the boomstick carrier, the big wide carrier.
Yeah, it's in the big wide, yeah.
But it's a foot long, a nacho, and a hamburger, cheeseburger.
I'm not mad at that. See, I like different things.
Me too.
So if you want to give me all 3, I'm completely down with it. And it's $32.99.
$32.99.
So by the time you go buy all of those things at the concession stand,
it's a deal.
You're gonna pay more, man.
It's a deal.
So get the boomstick, feed the family with the boomstick.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a little bit of something, you know?
Let's see. Korean pork steamed buns.
See, I'm down with that. I am down with some Korean pork steamed buns.
Meatball.
You give me steamed buns, anything, I'm down.
Meatball garlic knot sliders.
Those look amazing, by the way. Have you seen the picture of those?
Yeah, it's a 3. Yeah. Well, they're stacked up.
3 level. Yeah. Give me some of that.
It's not going to be stacked up there at the.
I will pay $17.99 gladly for those.
The Texas tacos. They're red dye shells, crunchy tacos.
Yeah. It's just a red shelled taco.
Oh, there's a soft flour tortilla inside the crunchy shell, so it's one.
So it's like a chicken. It's like a gordita crunch from Taco Bell. Yeah. Or a double-decker taco from Taco Bell.
Chicken empanadas.
That would be my child's favorite. Yeah.
Oh, this is what I was looking at earlier. That didn't look great, but now that I know what it is, I'm down with. All right, it's the Ranchero Chili Relleno dog with 2 W's.
Oh, yes, please.
It's an all-beef hot dog with queso, bacon, and grilled onions. And I'm assuming it's inside of a
Chili relleno.
Chili relleno.
Yeah, I'm always down with the chili relleno.
The picture is not as appetizing. Why are we calling it chili? I don't see a chili relleno. I don't see the chili in there. It just looks like a dog.
Like move it. Yeah, it just looks like a hot dog. Maybe it's just fried.
It's bacon wrapped.
Oh yeah, it's just bacon. So there's they've wrapped the chili
cheese
around it.
No, there's no chili, I don't think.
They've wrapped. It looks like they've wrapped
But there's cheese in there.
the green chili around it.
Maybe. I just see dog in there.
Now, the best chili relleno that you used to have in Lubbock was at the old Taco Village. Do you remember that place? Over off of University on the other side of where the Marsha Sharp is.
Never went.
Taco Village was the best chili relleno in Lubbock, Texas, until it was not Taco Village. And then Durango's, the people that own Durango's, that's the family that broke off from Taco Village. Durango's is coming back, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if it's the same, yeah, I've had the Durango's chili relleno.
Yes, it's good. Not as good as Taco Village, but pretty good.
Used to do the relleno or the stacked enchiladas with the egg on top.
Yeah, stacked enchiladas are go-to.
Woo!
Big time. Big time. Yeah.
All right, we're an hour in. I said we are going to talk about 3 or 4 more things. Do we want to, or do we want to save some stuff for Wednesday?
I mean, we can talk about the baseball series from the weekend. It's pretty simple to sum it up.
All right, Texas Tech beating BYU after a loss on Thursday. Had a walk-off on Friday night. By the way, Coronado, shout out to Coronado softball. Playing the league-leading Abilene Wiley Bulldogs on Friday night.
Yeah, you had those games.
In extra innings, a dead center into the wind home run walk-off.
Bomsky.
From the pitcher, Campion. It was a pretty exciting play. I went a little overboard on the walk-off, but you got to.
Why not, right? It's a walk-off home run. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy.
High school softball game. You got to have a little fun.
I got to call a walk-off home run last year for LCU in the conference tournament.
Oh, yeah.
That was fun.
Get into it.
Yeah. Carson Ogilvie hit one at deep left.
Great name.
That kid should be playing at the next level next year.
Oh, hey, by the way, remind me in a second. We'll talk about some next level guys as well.
There you go.
But Texas Tech winning the 2 out of 3, and then you kind of handle them on Sunday. Did the walk-off create some things? Did it change some things? Did it get you on the path to righteousness? I don't know. But you certainly had a good weekend. Better than TCU. So I don't want to harp on this, but you and I, especially you, were very high on TCU a couple of weeks ago. Alan Corbin in the chat said they weren't going to lose till April. They've lost 5, 6 Big 12 games. Are they 2-6?
Yeah, they're 2-6 in league play.
They lost 2 to Oklahoma State over the weekend. Yikes! Oklahoma losing 2 to West Virginia. They're now 7-2
after sweeping TCU at TCU a weekend ago.
Yeah, losing 2 to West Virginia. Texas losing 1 to Baylor at Dish-Falk and then winning 2 handily. This league, man. Hashtag this league. It never misses. It's weird. And everyone might be 500 at the end.
Yeah, which sucks because that'll mean you're getting 2 or 3 teams in the NCAA tournament.
2, yeah.
Yeah, 3 at the most. Right now, it's 3 at the most. Like, you're struggling to get that 3rd team in right now if the season ended today. But yeah, it's going back to Texas Tech, the momentum that you get from a walk-off home run or a walk-off anything. It wasn't a walk-off. Was it a walk-off home run?
Texas Tech, no, it was
it's just a
stripling single dub.
Right.
Actually double.
I wasn't able to watch any of the games.
Yeah.
So we were in the DFW playing softball all weekend. But yeah, it's just one of those deals where it can change momentum a little bit, and momentum in baseball, especially college baseball, is a big thing. Look at TCU right now. They're struggling to get any kind of momentum. Of course, Oklahoma, you look at the flip side of that, and Oklahoma had tons of momentum coming into this weekend, and then they kind of just lay an egg against West Virginia. So at home, too, by the way. That was in Norman. So, yeah, this league's a little wonky, man. It's a little wonky, And for Texas Tech, big midweek against Stephen F. Austin. And then you go to Orlando this weekend it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday because of Easter to face UCF. And that's kind of every series is big now because of how you started the first couple weekends for Texas Tech, just winning 2 games out of the first 2 weekends. But going to UCF on the road would do a lot of things. Like if you can win 2 out of 3 at UCF, you feel pretty good about where you're at going into the tougher part of the schedule where you have 2 against Stanford at home, and then you're playing Houston at home, and then you have Abilene Christian and then TCU in Fort Worth. And then what do you have? You have Arkansas after that, which have fun with Arkansas in the midweek. It doesn't get much easier as you go through the schedule, especially with the way the Big 12's looked. Like anybody can beat anybody on any given weekend right now. So there's not really a top tier and a bottom tier in the Big 12 baseball world right now. They're just all kind of beating each other, which sucks and doesn't do the conference any good whatsoever when that's the case, right? Like you need a top tier and a bottom tier because that top tier would need to separate themselves. Like you need 4 teams that can separate themselves from the rest to be able to get 4 teams into the tournament. If you can't separate, then that looks like that your league is not as good as what, they might think. If your league champion is just a little bit over 500 in conference play, then that's not going to bode well for the rest of the conference as far as getting bids into the NCAA tournament, into a regional, anything like that. So, and for Texas Tech, I think you've got to win most of the conference series that you have left on the slate for you to have a chance to get to a regional, or you're going to have to win the Big 12 tournament. Like that's where you're at right now.
Yeah.
You can afford to maybe lose one Big 12 series, and that's the series at TCU. Other than that, you've got to win. You've got to win every other Big 12 series.
Can you afford that now?
I mean, I think they still are high on TCU. Yes.
If TCU wins 2 of the next series, I think you play them in 3 series.
Yeah.
You get Houston before then too.
Yeah, you need UCF, Stanford, Houston, then TCU.
You need Stanford to win, and you need to split with Stanford, and you need to split with Arkansas.
Stanford's not winning much of anything right now.
I know that's what I'm saying. You need Stanford to win more. Just playing the RPI game at this point, you got to win your series though, and you started that this weekend. All right. What was I gonna do? Texas Tech baseball players in the major leagues. Clayton Beeter made the opening day roster for the New York Yankees.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
Becker was put on the injured reserve. Bryce Bonnin released by the Reds, but signed with the Red Sox. Martin optioned to AAA Charlotte. John McMillan optioned to AAA Omaha. So both those guys in the mix. Then Zach Davis released from his independent team.
He actually retired.
Retired, released. I guess retired sounds better.
Yeah.
The only other one I was looking for from the Yankees was Chase Hampton. I've not seen what he is going to do lately.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them send Chase to AA if he doesn't make the opening roster.
So Beeter is on the opening day roster. I've not seen where Hampton was sent. Is he alive? Where is Chase Hampton? This is the question we get on Twitter. I guess Chase Hampton was shut down for the spring a week ago. It does not look like Chase Hampton will make the opening day roster. He is number 4 on the Yankees prospect list, though.
He's the number 1 pitching prospect in the minor league system for the Yankees,
which is just incredible.
Yeah,
it's amazing that Texas Tech's pitching coach could find and put all these pitchers into the major leagues, huh?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Everybody's trying to fire him.
Yeah, it just is one of those deals where you just haven't had one of these guys in a little bit. But I guess, last year you had Mason Molina, and Mason Molina was really good last year. So, yeah, I think it comes down to guys just being good on the mound. Pitching coaches can't throw the ball for you. That's a fact. My pitching coach couldn't help me throw strikes whenever I was struggling. Let's put it that way. He yelled enough, but it never worked. I just had to figure it out, which I eventually did, but it takes some time. But yeah, and then obviously Josh Young is going to start at third base. Did you look at that Rangers opening day roster? By the way, Wyatt Langford, our dude, opening day roster. He'll be in the starting lineup on opening day.
I would love to see. Yeah, I want to see the lineup. Obviously, we'll see it probably Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, Thursday afternoon.
How would you set the lineup for opening day? Simeon.
Yes, Simeon
leading off still. Seager number 2.
Would you hit Seager 2 or 3?
Didn't he hit 2 last year?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, so keep him at 2 if that's what happened. 3, or you put Evan Carter at the top, and Simeon's hitting 2, Seager's hitting 3, Adolis is hitting 4. Probably going Josh Young 5 or 6. 7, 8, 9 looks like probably Jonah Heim, Wyatt Langford, Leody Taveras. No, because Leody can't play if Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter are playing. Yeah, he can. Leody can be in the lineup, but Dolis is just DHing. Oh, and then you have to put in who's the first baseman? Why is his name
Nathaniel Lowe
escaping me? Yeah, Nathaniel Lowe. Thank you. He's probably hit in 5. Josh Young is 6. 7, 8, 9 are Wyatt Langford, Jonah Heim, and Leody Taveras.
Let's see, we'll write that down. So Wyatt Langford batting 5th. 6th?
Batting 5th. Where'd you see that?
No, I'm asking you.
Oh, and mine would be 7. Yeah, 5th and 6th would be Nathaniel Lowe, and then Josh Young, then Wyatt Langford, Jonah Heim, and then Leody Taveras at the bottom to flip that lineup back over. Or it's
Nathaniel Lowe is hurt.
Okay, so who's playing first base?
Jared Walsh or Foscue.
Duffy.
Foscue.
Oh,
Foscue's a young.
Yeah, he's been a prospect in the organization for a little bit. I'm trying to remember where he played at college baseball. Anyway, doesn't matter. But yeah, Foscue. If Nathaniel Lowe's not in the lineup, then you're putting whoever's playing first base probably down to 8, and Jonah Heim's moving up.
Yeah.
Josh Young moves up. Jonah Heim moves up to 6. Maybe Wyatt Langford, then Jonah Heim. But Jonah Heim gives you some flexibility in the middle, in the latter half of the lineup because of the switch hitting.
I think the top 3 last year were Simeon, Seager, Garcia.
Yeah.
And then,
and then it was Nathaniel Lowe 4.
Yeah, but
Josh Young 5.
But so you maybe just move those up. So
yeah.
I think it was Simeon, Seager, Garcia, Carter, Young, Langford, who's ever playing first base, Jonah Heim, Taveras.
Yeah.
That's a lineup.
That's a pretty good lineup. You take, Foscue, I don't know how good he'll be, but once Nathaniel Lowe gets put back in the lineup and is healthy, that is a tough lineup to navigate right there, bud.
Yeah.
Tough lineup. I think Delino DeShields put it out there. He put a lineup out the other day and said, look at this lineup. If this is the Texas Rangers lineup this year. And he said, this may be the toughest lineup to navigate for a pitcher in the Major League Baseball. Like, the Dodgers lineup is good, but the Texas Rangers lineup doesn't really have holes in it if you go by what they did last year.
Yeah, or the spring training with Wyatt Langford.
Right.
Yeah. And we'll see. We'll see what he can do against, everyday legitimate frontline pitching.
Big league pitching, yeah.
We'll see. I mean,
I'm not worried about Wyatt Langford. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not real worried about him struggling.
Me neither.
I think he's going to have a rookie year, kind of like what Josh Young had last year.
Yeah. Hey, I also saw somebody post earlier, maybe it was a 2020 or 21 lineup from the Rangers. Just listen to this. You ready?
Yeah.
Brock Holt leading off, playing third base.
Oh, Weatherford guy.
Isaiah Keener-Falefa batting second, playing shortstop. Nathaniel Lowe, early on his first year here, first base. Joey Gallo, right fielder, batting fourth. Nick Solak,
Oh, goodness.
DHing, batting fifth.
No wonder you were a last place team.
Batting fifth. Willie Calhoun, who never panned out, left field.
Never.
I do not remember this guy's first name. Culberson, playing
Charlie.
base. Charlie Culberson.
Yeah.
And then Adolis Garcia, pinch hit in that game that they're showing. And then you have Martin in center field and Heim at catcher.
Leonis Martin.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't him. It was Jay Martin.
Oh, it was Jeremy Martin. Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember him either.
You said Martin, so I was thinking it was Leonis Martin.
I did, just because that's how I say it. But
yeah, Jeremy Martin. Yeah.
I don't remember who that is.
He's a guy that's been around. He was with the Pirates for a little while. I think he's just one of those utility guys that's been around the places. Played independent. Jason Martin, yeah, thank you. Played independent ball with a guy named Jason Martin. Not the same Jason Martin. I don't believe.
That is just wild.
Yeah, not the same Jason Martin.
You were so bad.
So bad.
Pretty incredible.
So bad.
I mean, Brock Holt leading off is something. A major league lineup.
Yeah, Jason Martin.
Now you have
Pirates now.
Now you have Simeon and Seager, and Adolis is a different player than he was then. Of course, he was pretty good when he came up for a stretch. Man. All right. We're also banning the hip tackle. I can see both sides of this one. I would like to see how that is enforced before I make too many judgments on it. I'll probably complain about it in week 3 more than I am right now.
It'll only get complained about when your team gets screwed by it, right?
The Texans or the Cowboys get screwed, or the Chiefs.
The Texans.
But Mahomes, high ankle sprain off the hip drop. Tony Pollard broke his ankle off the hip drop. Mark Andrews broke his leg off the hip drop.
I think Odell Beckham's ankle Achilles issues started because of the hip drop tackle. Yeah,
there's a lot of injuries from the hip drop. JJ Watt, who probably knows more than me about the NFL, tweeted afterwards, "Let's just put the belts with flags on now." He's not happy about it, but
that's a big play for a defensive player like him. The hip drop tackle. I mean, drop your hips and you get the guy down, especially when you weigh as much as JJ Watt did.
I hope they don't call it if you don't land on the back of the legs. If you land on the back of the legs, they're going to call it. Now,
if you pull down and side swipe,
they're going to call everything in the preseason, and it's going to be brutal. But
it's going to piss off a lot of people
during the regular season. I will say this: in high school, you're taught to drive your legs, and then you kind of had this hip drop thing come out of nowhere in the last 5 seasons, and that's been the way to tackle. But if you can get back to driving your legs and hitting through the guy's hip, maybe it relieves the injuries. Though the NFLPA, Players Association, when they brought up the vote, they said, no, the hip drop tackles don't bother us. The turf bothers us. We want natural grass. Because players think all the ACLs and all the Achilles are from the turf. Especially at MetLife, a lot of people complain about the MetLife turf. A lot of injuries happen at MetLife. But of course, the Players Association, the NFL is not going to do anything about that. So, because that would be a ton of money for the owners, especially like a Jerry playing in a dome, to figure out how to. Now, Arizona does it, but
they have it on rollers, so they can roll it in and roll it out.
They built that stadium
for that purpose.
With that in mind. So.
Right. The grass stays out. The grass stays out all week long, and then they roll it in on tracks
for the game.
And it literally, you're playing on a grass surface that's on stilts for the most part. Like there's this much room between the actual floor of the arena or the dome stadium, and where the grass surface is laid on top of. And look, there's multiple layers to the grass surface. It's actually pretty cool and really sweet engineering when you look at it. But they keep the grass out all week long, and they manicure it and do all those things outside. And then on game day, they'll mow it outside, and then they'll roll it in that morning. No. So it's you
can't do that in the world because you don't have you just can't you can't
do that now because you can't. There's no construction that you could possibly do that could do that. Now the Texans used to did they ever? They had natural grass inside, right?
At NRG,
or has it always been turf? Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember that. You could lay down sod every week, but that's incredibly expensive and wouldn't hold, and it would be just as bad as the turf, in my opinion. So I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor though, or a agronomist. What do they call it?
Agronomics. Yeah, I don't know. Agronomist. The Texans did have grass inside.
How'd they manage that? Hydroponics?
Let's see.
You get the UV
I'm sure that, and that's why they went to the artificial surface, because it was costing them so much money. And then towards the end, the grass surface was causing injuries, and because of the way that the root system couldn't go all the way down through the floor,
right?
It was getting loose, and it was a loose root system, which you see a lot at like the Frisco Stadium when they're playing the Division II National Championship, or the one AA National FCS National Championship. You see that a lot when they're trying to resod and the root system doesn't have enough space to go through it. But yeah, I think that's why, like Jadeveon Clowney, his knee injury, which required arthroscopic surgery, came after he landed on a hole in the turf there at the NRG Stadium. So they went to artificial turf. Now, look, artificial turf is becoming more and more advanced, and they can make it a lot like a grass surface.
I'm just saying what the players are saying, man.
And I also think that players try to come up with reasons for injuries a lot too that maybe aren't there. I think if you did a real study and went to what it was like injuries on grass versus what they are in artificial turf, I think you'd see a lot of the same numbers. Like, I don't think it would be a big difference in the amount of injuries on artificial turf versus grass surface. So take that for what it's worth.
Maybe so. All right. I think that's all I mentioned at the top of the broadcast. The Big 12 needs to be better at protecting games being played. Texas Tech losing 3 softball games this weekend against Iowa State. Don't want to spend too much time on this. Texas Tech baseball has been screwed in the past, losing a Baylor game.
West Virginia too.
They're losing a West Virginia game, and then they
2 games in West Virginia.
I think you had to sweep TCU at the end to win the Big 12, and you ended up doing that.
Yeah.
So it didn't hurt you that season, but there is no set of recourse. There's no plan for weather in the Big 12.
Yeah, there's no extra week put in to make up games
in softball or baseball, and they allegedly would not allow Texas Tech and Iowa State to find a new place to play that because they knew the snow was coming all week. Why you don't get Iowa State to come play in Lubbock or whatever else and let Iowa State be the home team all weekend, or figure out another way? Both those programs, who desperately need wins, lost a chance at 3 wins this weekend. And if Texas Tech loses an opportunity to be in the NCAA tournament and they're close and their RPI is a couple of games off and it could have helped to play Iowa State, or they needed a couple of more quad 3 wins to get into the tournament, then you look back at the Big 12 and say you screwed the team here. You screwed a Big 12 team because you wouldn't allow any provisions to take place here to have the games played. Now, this is not new. This is not just because it's softball. This is a baseball and softball problem. There's no time built in. But surely if you know the weather is coming ahead of time, you can find somewhere else to play a softball game. Well, the travel, COVID taught us one thing in college sports.
Be flexible.
It's that plans can happen quickly.
Yep.
And if you don't think Texas Tech softball, now maybe the broadcast would have been a little sketchy. It would have
just set up a camera in the press box. That's what half of them do anyways.
It would have maybe not been on TV at this point.
It's not hard.
On that, but you know what wasn't on TV this weekend?
Softball.
The Iowa State games.
Yeah.
Because they didn't happen. So
yep.
It is what it is at this point. You have to move on and win some games that you don't plan to or didn't plan to. Of course, you try to plan to win every game, but don't predict to. And then you lose 3 games that you probably could have won against Iowa State. So
yep.
That's the issue there, especially with Texas Tech.
Yeah, and it also sucks for Texas Tech because they spent money on travel and everything else, hotel stay and everything.
No fight.
And they're sitting there. It's like a vacation to the snow, except for it's in Ames, Iowa. So it's not like you're on a mountain and it's nice scenery. It's in Ames, Iowa. So
nothing wrong with Ames, Iowa.
Yeah, it's like being snowed in Lubbock, Texas. It just is what it is. But it looked like they had fun. I mean, if you look at their Twitters and Instagram, everything. I mean, the team had some fun and they were able to. It's a good thing for team bonding, I guess you could say. But on the flip side of that, you wish you were playing games, and that's the whole idea of a season is to play games.
You know what else is good for team bonding?
What's
Winning softball games.
Winning softball games. I agree. That's a big reason for team bonding. Everybody's happy when we're winning. But yeah, I think there's got to be a better way of planning, a better way of, obviously the weather forecast was a week away, and they said this like 4 days before the series series was already being moved back because of the weather. Like, if you're not going to be able to play, figure it out, man. Like, play at Oklahoma State. Play it somewhere where it ain't snowing. Like, that's.
I mean, how many fields
is what it is.
Iowa could you have played at? Or again, just played in Lubbock and let Iowa State be the home team all weekend.
Yeah, and then you go play at Iowa State next year when it was supposed to be a home series for you, right? Like, if they're on the schedule. I don't even know if they're on the schedule next year.
Keep it how it is and just let them bat second and love it.
Yeah, it's just stupid.
Let them use the home dugout.
Yeah, I mean, what's the difference in crowds, right? Like, not a big difference.
Let's see. One last note. I've said this 3 times here. One last note. Have you seen Philip Bleedy's offer list?
I have not.
Do you remember Philip Bleedy from Texas Tech?
It's from Portales, yeah.
From Portales. Played at Texas Tech a couple of seasons. Transferred out after last year. Went to Indiana.
Yep. Went with Miles Price.
Philip Bleedy? No, Miles Price went to him.
Right. Miles Price went with, Philip, yeah.
He went to, he's been in Indiana maybe 2 years now.
No, I think this last year was his first year. Because he transferred whenever Joey got the job.
Right. Joey's been here 2 years.
Right. But he transferred after Joey's first year.
Okay.
Same as Miles Price.
That might be true. No, Miles Price was here last year.
That's right.
Now you're confused.
No, so Bleedy might not have played in Indiana yet.
No, Bleedy was at Indiana for an entire year, at least.
Okay.
Maybe 2.
So he's been there for 1 year.
At least 1 year, maybe 2. Anyways, he's got offers from Texas A&M, LSU, and a bunch of high major Power 5 SEC Big 12 programs. It's pretty wild. I didn't think he had an incredible year at Indiana. Obviously, I really wanted him to stay at Texas Tech when he left. I thought he could have slotted in well, but, you had Bradford and Hutchings there on the inside, so maybe it didn't make sense for him. Obviously, it didn't make sense. That's why he left. But Bleedy has an incredible offer list that he's stacking up. The latest, why I bring it up is the latest, like an hour ago, was A&M that he tweeted out. Hey, shout out to Philip Bleedy. Go get your bag, buddy. This will be his third school, and he's got a wife and kid, so he's doing it big there, and he'll, I guess, come back to this region of the world if he's going to play for A&M or LSU, and have some success. Maybe there's an opportunity for him to come back to Texas Tech. I don't know. I haven't seen that offer come through, but
yeah, I mean,
that would be a good end of the story.
Be pretty cool. I mean, obviously, it would be the closest he could possibly get to home. Yeah, he's not even on the Indiana roster anymore.
Now I'm on his page here, so I'm just going to read some offers. A&M, TCU, Oklahoma, LSU, Baylor, Cal, Washington, Arizona. I mean, that's an incredible list.
It's a pretty good list.
So, yeah, let's I think he was there 2 years at Indiana. Because I believe Matt Wells' final season, we had him as a gambling gauchos athlete, and then he left immediately.
Nope, he played 1 year in Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah, his senior year. Wait, let's see. Yeah, senior year was 2023 at Indiana. His junior year was at Texas Tech. He played in all 12 games, 11 starts, one of 21 transfer student athletes to make make a debut for Indiana in 2023.
Well, that makes more sense because NIL came in 2022. So,
yep,
that would have been when we did it.
Yep.
Played in 12 games.
Played in 12 games his junior year at Texas Tech as well.
4 tackles for loss. Wow, he had a pretty solid season.
I mean, he's always had the intangibles and the upside.
I was so high on him in 2022. He had those 2 sacks. He played well.
Yeah.
But again, you were going to be a rotational piece and not a starter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he started 11 of the 12 games in Indiana this last year.
Yeah. Probably one of those, you were in nickel or something and just didn't have a fourth defensive lineman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's how it works. You still play starter snaps, but if you're in the Wildcat on the first play of the game, the running back's the starting quarterback.
Yeah, fact. Yeah, and he has 2 little ones too. So trying to make, take care of his family. I don't blame him. Can't blame the guy.
No.
It's the day and age of using your likeness and your name and your image and your skills and athleticism and abilities to make yourself some money at the college level. Especially in college football.
If you get in the portal every year and you have offers every year, you're not doing anything wrong.
No.
Now, if you
coaches do it all the time, man.
If you leave Texas, right, and you get offers from UNLV and North Texas and
Akron,
dropping levels. Yeah. North Dakota State's offering you. Yeah. And you probably, made a miss there. But if you're leaving Indiana and getting Arizona and Washington,
Texas A&M, LSU,
TCU, Baylor, you're probably making a good move there.
Yeah, no doubt.
For your career and obviously for your family there now.
No doubt about it. And so
shout out
a good dude too. Yeah.
We also have spring football. Let's talk spring football on Wednesday after another day of practice. We'll have a week and a half in at that point. We'll talk some spring football. I know we have some people writing about it already, so we'll get into that as well. All right. That was
Roy said. Roy had a comment. Does it feel like Shuck has been gone for years, y'all too, or is it just me? Yeah, it feels like Shuck never played here. This is what it feels like. He just, he never had a full season. He only played 3 or 4 games here and there, and I hope he has success at Louisville.
No comment. Never a big Shuck guy.
No, you were not.
He won me over in the offseason and then lost me at Wyoming.
And Oregon.
immediately.
When
Well,
he threw the ball right to the guy.
Can't lose me twice. You already lost me twice. You can't lose me twice.
Good point. Yeah. Shucking it up.
Shucking it up.
Yeah.
All right. Now it's over. Do you have any final thoughts there, Carson?
Nope. All out of thoughts.
All right.
We're
We
an hour and a half in.
will see you on Wednesday.
Peace.